Ever feel like you're drowning in healthcare jargon? Like you're missing some secret code to decipher all these new initiatives?
Yeah, it can definitely feel overwhelming sometimes.
Well, stick around, because today we're going to break down those barriers. We're going to give you the tools to not only understand, but actively participate in making healthcare better, more efficient.
Ultimately leading to better care for everyone.
Exactly. Welcome to another deep dive.
Today, we're focusing on something super important, project management in healthcare. You share a document called Healthcare Project Management, Healthcare Project Management. Quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. But hey, the content is gold.
And our mission, should we choose to accept it,
Always do.
is to extract the absolute key insights and share them with you.
So buckle up, because we're going deep into why project management is crucial in today's healthcare world. And our source material jumps right into a pivotal period, starting with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009.
Oh, yeah, that was huge.
Massive. And nestled within it was HATEC, the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act. Now, this wasn't just a minor tweak. It really beefed up high-layer regulations around privacy and security.
More enforcement, bigger potential penalties.
Definitely raised the stakes. But what's even more relevant to our topic today is that HATEC really pushed for the meaningful use of electronic medical records, EHRs.
Right. They offered incentives to get everyone on board and then eventually started penalizing those who didn't comply.
Think about it. This single piece of legislation created a tsunami of projects across the entire healthcare system, implementing new EHR systems, training staff, making sure they were using them effectively.
It was a massive undertaking, and this push for change didn't stop there.
Not even close. We then got the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act of 2010, bringing even more sweeping changes.
Oh yeah, accountable care organizations, or ACOs, popped up trying to promote coordinated care and value over just churning through patients.
And then there was the gradual phasing out of those disproportionate share payments, which had helped hospitals serving a lot of low-income patients.
It was a definite shift in how healthcare was financed and delivered.
The big message was clear: greater efficiency, better quality, and keeping costs under control. Huge projects had to be launched to adapt to these new models of care and reimbursement.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the heart of the matter. These legislative acts, coupled with a bunch of really powerful trends that were already brewing in the industry.
Like what?
Well, think about the growing emphasis on truly patient-centered care, the increasing reliance on evidence-based medicine to guide clinical decisions, and the development of those specialized centers of excellence.
You're right. All those things were happening simultaneously.
And our document calls this convergence an unsurpassed number of healthcare projects.
It actually uses the word chaos to describe the sheer volume and complexity of it all.
It makes sense, though. Every single one of these trends, whether it's individual patient focus or implementing new treatment protocols, often needs well-defined projects to become a reality.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it puts a huge amount of pressure on public health and healthcare leaders.
Totally. They're not only trying to keep the lights on day to day, but also figuring out which projects to prioritize in this constantly changing environment.
And crucially, making sure every single dollar invested in these projects is being used wisely. It's a tough balancing act.
It is. And it highlights the need to bridge that gap between the IT folks and the clinical staff.
Bringing those two worlds together.
Exactly. Educating IT staff on the intricacies of clinical work and patient care. But equally important, educating clinical staff about the power of information technology.
You need both sides speaking the same language.
Absolutely. Otherwise, these projects are doomed to fail.
And it all boils down to strategic investment, right?
Absolutely. Our source material emphasizes that strategic investments in information technology, infrastructure upgrades, and various quality improvement initiatives are the key to achieving that ultimate healthcare goal, reducing costs while maintaining or even improving patient care.
And that's precisely where good project management comes in.
It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. The document argues that clinical leaders need comprehensive training in project management principles and methodologies.
It's like giving them a roadmap to navigate this complex landscape.
Precisely. And the document goes on to explain why this training is so vital by referencing findings from a recent study.
Oh, what do they find?
Well, it turns out healthcare workers, even though they're incredibly dedicated, often don't differentiate between service work and project work.
I guess that makes sense. They're so focused on taking care of patients day in and day out.
Exactly. They're experts in their operational roles, making sure individual patient interactions go smoothly. but they often lack the formal training and structured approach needed for those bigger, more system-wide changes.
The kind of changes that really shake things up and lead to lasting improvements.
Right. And that distinction between service work and project work is crucial.
So help me understand that better.
Sure, healthcare projects are all about creating something new, a unique outcome or deliverable that becomes part of the organization, like implementing a new electronic consent process or setting up a telemedicine program. Those are projects with specific goals and timelines.
Okay, I'm starting to see the difference.
It's different from that ongoing day-to-day work where the focus is on individual patients right then and there. As the study puts it, it's only when a project's outcome is fully implemented and becomes the new normal that it starts having a broader impact on patient care.
So project work is about building the foundation for future improvements.
Exactly. It's about creating the systems and processes that will ultimately enable better patient care down the line.
That makes a lot of sense. So what does the study suggest we do about this?
Well, it stresses the need to train healthcare workers in project management principles and methodologies.
Okay, that seems logical.
And a big part of that training should be about fostering collaboration and communication among team members, everyone working towards shared goals.
Makes sense. You need everyone on the same page.
Absolutely. The study also highlights the importance of individuals understanding their specific roles and responsibilities within a project team, which, as we've said, might be very different from their usual day-to-day duties.
So it's not just about slapping on a new title and hoping for the best.
Not at all. It's about making sure everyone knows how their contributions fit into the big picture.
And that requires support from management and organizational leadership.
Definitely. They need to structure project teams effectively, taking into account the time commitment involved.
Right, because this project work is often in addition to their regular duties.
And the study emphasizes the importance of recognizing and compensating people for their work on these projects. It's about acknowledging that project work is different and making sure individuals feel valued and supported in their contributions.
Now, the document also talks about these two camps of staff that often come together, sometimes with different perspectives, when healthcare projects are launched.
Yeah, you've got your clinical staff, doctors, nurses, therapists, all those folks focused on individual patients and their well-being.
And then you have the staff with more of a business focus.
Right, the enterprise viability and sustainability folks, they're thinking about financial stability, operational efficiency, regulatory compliance, the big picture stuff.
And these different perspectives can sometimes lead to clashes, right?
It's understandable. Healthcare has its own unique language, established processes, and professional cultures.
Plus, healthcare projects often have these distinct technical and clinical phases.
You've got the technical side, focusing on IT infrastructure or new equipment.
Yeah.
And then the clinical side, which is all about changes in patient care protocols or workflow redesign.
Understanding how these two sides intersect is crucial for project success.
Now, here's a surprising point the document makes. Project management, as a recognized discipline, is actually less mature in healthcare compared to other industries.
Really? That's kind of unexpected.
Especially considering how complex and high-stakes healthcare is.
You'd think they'd be leading the way.
But the document stresses that even small improvements in project success rates can have a huge impact in healthcare.
Meaning?
Tangible improvements in patient outcomes, fewer complications, faster recovery times, better quality of life, and, of course, significant cost reductions.
So even small gains can make a big difference.
Absolutely. When you consider the sheer number of healthcare projects happening, even a small percentage increase in success translates into massive savings and better care for countless patients.
Now, this focus on efficiency and cost reduction can sometimes be a bit tricky in healthcare.
How so?
Well, the document points out that some staff members might perceive it negatively, like it's prioritizing finances over patient well-being.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It can be a delicate balance.
It really emphasizes why deep healthcare industry expertise is so crucial for project management in this field.
You need people who understand the clinical environment, the potential impact on patients, and those ethical considerations.
Patient care has to be the top priority.
Always. Now, another thing to consider is how rapidly healthcare is evolving.
Oh yeah, things are changing so fast.
The document points out all the billions of dollars being invested in new medical technologies, digital health solutions, and innovative treatments.
It's mind-boggling how much is happening.
And all this rapid advancement is fueling a ton of healthcare projects.
Which requires a workforce that's not only clinically skilled, but also understands how to manage these complex technological changes.
Exactly. The document even predicts we'll need at least 70,000 new technology staff members in the coming years just to keep up.
70,000, that's a huge number.
It is, and it really highlights the urgent need for better project management capabilities within healthcare organizations.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Well, the document poses a very direct question. Why should we teach PM to nurses?
Interesting.
And it gives a compelling list of reasons. First, it argues that healthcare is unique. It's different from other industries. So it makes sense that clinicians, people who truly understand patient care, should be leading these projects.
It's their world, after all.
Exactly. The document also points out that the risks and rewards in healthcare projects are different, often carrying much greater weight.
The stakes are higher.
Much higher. A failed project can directly impact people's lives, while a successful one can lead to major improvements in patient care.
And there's also this desire within healthcare to maintain control over its own destiny, right?
Definitely. By giving clinicians, especially nurses, strong project management skills, it empowers them to drive positive change within their organizations.
It gives them a seat at the table.
Exactly. And let's not forget, nurses often make up the largest group affected by healthcare projects.
They're on the front lines.
They see the changes firsthand, so their involvement is crucial for successful implementation.
The document also highlights some of the qualities that make nurses particularly well suited for project management roles.
They're amazing communicators, which is essential for both nursing and project management.
They're also natural leaders.
Think about it. They're constantly coordinating care, delegating tasks, making decisions under pressure. Those skills translate perfectly to project management.
They also develop a really deep understanding of how the healthcare business works.
Through their daily experiences, they see the complexities of patient flow, resource allocation, regulations, and finances. That kind of practical knowledge is invaluable in a project setting.
And finally, the document emphasizes that success in healthcare projects often looks different from success in other industries.
It's not just about hitting deadlines and staying within budget. It's about achieving tangible improvements in patient outcomes and elevating the quality of care.
That's a really important distinction.
Now, the document briefly mentions this PM conceptual framework that it claims is universal, citing Kathy Schwalbe and Dan Furlong's work on healthcare project management.
So there are some overarching principles that apply to all projects, regardless of the industry.
That's the idea. And it goes on to compare project management in healthcare with other sectors. It notes that healthcare projects, just like projects anywhere else, involve the same 10 knowledge areas and 5 process groups.
Things like scope management, schedule management, risk management.
Right. And they face similar constraints, use similar tools and techniques, and need that same structured approach.
So the fundamentals are the same.
But here's the key difference. How those principles are applied and the context in which healthcare projects operate can be very different.
A different world.
And you need a nuanced understanding of that world to be successful.
Now, the document shifts gears and outlines the objectives of a healthcare project management course.
First, it emphasizes the need to motivate healthcare professionals to actually take these courses.
Show them why it's relevant to their work and how it can benefit them.
Exactly. Then it stresses the importance of explaining those key project management concepts in a way that's easy to understand and relevant to a healthcare audience.
No need to get bogged down in technical jargon.
And to really make it stick, the document suggests using real-world examples from healthcare.
Success stories, failures, best practices.
It also suggests incorporating videos, showing real-world project scenarios.
That always helps bring things to life.
To bridge the gap between theory and practice, the document emphasizes the need to show people how to actually apply these concepts.
Give them practical tools and strategies.
And it even suggests using a running case study, maybe something like reducing ventilator-associated pneumonia, to walk students through the entire project management lifecycle.
That sounds like a great way to learn.
The ultimate goal, as the document puts it, is to empower students to apply these practices in their own real-world scenarios.
Okay, so let's actually walk through those typical project management lifecycle phases.
Sounds good. We start with the initiating phase.
This is where the groundwork is laid, right?
Exactly. You develop the business case, justifying the project. Then you do a stakeholder analysis, identifying everyone who has a stake in the project.
And finally, you create the project charter, the official document that gives the project manager the authority to proceed. Next comes the planning phase.
This is where you get into the nitty-gritty. You create the project management plan, define the scope, develop the work breakdown structure, create the schedule, establish the budget.
There are a lot of moving parts.
Definitely. You also define quality metrics, develop a human resource plan, create the risk register, and figure out your stakeholder management plan.
You're basically creating the roadmap for the entire project.
Exactly. Once the plan is in place, you move into the executing phase.
And this is where the rubber meets the road.
You're producing the deliverables, tracking progress, managing change requests, keeping everyone informed, and dealing with any issues that come up.
Sounds busy.
It can be. And throughout this whole execution phase, you're also in the monitoring and controlling phase.
Making sure everything is on track.
You're tracking performance against the plan using tools like earned value charts and quality control charts, and generating regular performance reports.
And finally, you reach the closing phase.
You finalize everything, document the outcomes, create the final report, develop the transition plan, and capture all the lessons learned.
So every project has a clear beginning, middle, and end.
Now, the document doesn't shy away from the challenges of teaching healthcare project management.
What are some of the biggest hurdles?
Well, for starters, learners come from different backgrounds with different levels of knowledge. Some might understand business principles, others might not. Some might be familiar with project management, others might be completely new to it.
And then there's the challenge of finding relevant projects for students to actually work on.
Right. It's not always easy to give them real-world experience, especially in a sensitive and regulated environment like healthcare.
And you have to consider things like patient privacy, the complexity of the projects, time constraints, and the varying levels of knowledge among participants.
It's a lot to juggle.
So what are some ways to approach these challenges?
The document suggests a variety of training types, from short presentations to full-blown courses.
It also talks about different delivery methods like online learning, hybrid approaches, and even the flipped classroom model.
And for the coursework itself, it recommends things like group projects, case studies, papers, exams, and even working on real projects if possible.
It seems like there are a lot of options.
There are. The key is to provide learners with that hands-on experience. Give them the opportunity to apply what they're learning.
And it's also important to tailor the course to the students and the chosen delivery method.
Absolutely. You need to meet learners where they are.
And don't be afraid to get creative.
Use students as project resources if possible. Adapt existing materials to fit the healthcare context.
And create a safe space for learning and even a little bit of failure.
People learn best when they're allowed to make mistakes.
The document also emphasizes the importance of providing learners with tons of support.
Tools, templates, resources, and access to mentors or experienced healthcare project managers.
And keep the content grounded in real-world examples that resonate with their experiences.
Now, to illustrate some of these project management concepts, the document uses a rather unexpected analogy.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
It breaks down the movie Smokey and the Bandit.
That's awesome. I love that movie.
It's a classic, and it actually does a great job of illustrating project management principles.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So the Bandit's objective is to drive from Atlanta to Texarkana and back in 28 hours to deliver those Coors beers and win the bet.
That's their project goal.
Right. And they have to prioritize that goal, figure out the best route, and make sure they have those 400 cases of Coors.
That's like defining the project scope and priorities.
Exactly. Then they have to manage threats, in this case, the Smokies, or Sheriff Buford T. Justice.
Risk management in action.
They develop their plan, execute the drive, deal with unexpected issues along the way, like the locked warehouse and picking up Frog.
That's like dealing with project issues.
And they have to communicate constantly using their CB radios.
Stakeholder communication is key.
And they have to adapt their plans when things go wrong, like when they encounter roadblocks or unexpected detours.
Managing changes to the project plan.
And finally, they deliver the Coors beer back to Atlanta on time, proving they achieved their objective.
That's like verifying project success.
It's a fun way to think about it.
It is. And the document even provides a parallel analogy using clinical terms.
It compares diagnosing a patient to clarifying project objectives. Prioritizing the patient's needs is like prioritizing project objectives.
Identifying potential allergies or contraindications is like identifying project risks.
Developing a care plan is like creating the project plan. The intervention is like executing the project.
Monitoring outcomes is like managing project issues.
Communicating with the team and family is like stakeholder communication. Evaluating and modifying the care plan is like managing project changes.
And verifying the patient is responding is like confirming project success.
It's amazing how closely those two processes align.
It really is. And the document wraps up by reiterating those 10 reasons why nurses need project management skills?
First, if nurses aren't prepared to lead these projects, who will advocate for patients and staff?
It's about having a voice at the table.
And if you can't measure and describe project outcomes, how can you demonstrate its value?
You need that data to show the impact.
The document also highlights the high failure rate of projects and the crucial role nurses can play in improving those odds.
It's about making sure projects actually succeed.
It also points out how the nursing process itself is essentially project management in action.
They're already doing it, they just need the formal framework.
And learning project management empowers nurses to have more input on changes that affect them.
It gives them more control over their work lives.
It also provides a common language, breaking down those communication silos between different disciplines.
Everyone's speaking the same language.
And the document encourages nurses to apply their care planning skills to project planning.
Those skills are transferable.
It also stresses the importance of having nurses at the decision-making table.
Otherwise, decisions will be made without their input.
And given limited resources, effective communication and project success are even more crucial in healthcare.
You have to make the most of what you have.
And finally, the document reminds us that nurses are already managing projects in their daily work.
It's about recognizing and formalizing those existing skills.
For those interested in diving deeper, there's a free companion website for healthcare project management with tons of resources.
Templates, videos, quizzes, case studies, PMP info, and even instructor resources.
The website is www.healthcarepm.com. Definitely check it out.
The document concludes by stating that healthcare is lagging behind other industries in terms of project management maturity.
Which emphasizes the need to educate clinical staff, especially nurses.
And it warns that if healthcare doesn't step up its game, there will be more outside influence on how things are run.
But it ends on a hopeful note.
With the idea that we can improve healthcare, one student, one course, one project at a time.
Absolutely. So, what does all this mean for you, the listener?
It means that a project management mindset is becoming increasingly important in healthcare.
Even if you're not a formal project manager, understanding these principles can make you a more effective agent of change.
It's about understanding how to make things better.
And this deep dive has shown us that healthcare project management is about more than just charts and timelines.
It's about approaching complex challenges in a structured and collaborative way.
It's about blending clinical expertise with project management methodologies to navigate the chaos and drive positive change.
Here's a thought to ponder. Think about the last major change in your workplace. How might a better understanding of project management have impacted its success?
What about a small project you could tackle with a more structured, project-focused approach starting today?
These are great questions to consider. And before we wrap up, a special thanks to London Heartbeat Z Academy UK for their fantastic educational support.
We highly recommend checking out their over 150 popular courses and subscribing to their social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
They're a wealth of information and a great way to stay updated on all things healthcare.
So until next time, keep learning, keep improving, and keep pushing for better healthcare.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.